Hello, my spooky people. I need a break from embroidery. So today I am going to make this wonderful blouse pattern from 1958. It is still winter. It is still gross and cold and snowing, and I am dreaming of warmer weather at this point. So in the meantime, I'm going to make a blouse. I'm hoping for a not full sleeve, something a little bit shorter, something that I can easily go out in a garden and work and get some yard work done. We just bought our property, and this year we are going to work on developing the land in order to be able to grow our own, garden of veggies and herbs and stuff. For this upcoming warmer weather, I would like to have a shirt that I can easily go out and work in the garden in. I've got this pattern that I thrifted from 1958. What originally caught my eye was this cool looking lady in the middle with the sunglasses. I mean, look at how cool she is. But I'm actually going to make something closer to the lady in yellow today, with of course keeping the ties in the front because I just adore that. And so of course I have thrifted this pattern, and I've got, I think it's a bed sheet. I'm not entirely sure. I thrifted that as well. It is a large piece of fabric, that is all I know. And it's pretty lightweight, and I think it'll look really nice as a blouse like this. My hands are hurting, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a pretty easy project. The pattern does say that it's 9 pieces, so I don't know what that's about, but it shouldn't be too bad, right? It looks like a pretty simple project, so I'm excited to get a new blouse to add to my new wardrobe. So let's go make my blouse from the 1950s. So first things first, I want to take a look at what's in this envelope and check out the instructions. I adore how these instructions look so much like a comic page, even the font. Anyway, I pulled it out of its envelope and made sure all of my parts are there, as well as pressing them with a low heat and no steam on my iron to get them to lay nicely. The heat helps the fibers of the tissue relax a little bit easier, and this risks less damage from fighting those folds. Once that's done, I can then more easily trace the pattern onto some wrapping paper, including all of the markings and dots and such. Once they're all copied and cut out, I can fold up the tissue and put it back in the envelope to keep them as safe as possible that way. Now that I've copied this onto something I don't feel as bad using as a pattern, I can trace this out onto my fabric and cut it out. I was able to peek under the sticker on the envelope from the thrift store, and shockingly, this pattern is in my size. This looks like it's also a loose fit as well, so I don't feel the need to do a mock-up for this. Since I thrifted this fabric, I don't really know what it is, so I'm going to do a burn test with a small scrap real quick. All this will really tell me is if it's natural fiber, a blend, or just fully synthetic. So this mostly melted and turned hard around where the fire was, and there was not really any ash, so this tells me it's mostly a synthetic fiber in this fabric. Not ideal for me, but I can make it work. I just need to remember to use a low heat on my irons with this garment. I'm going to kind of skip steps and move around some, as these instructions don't make a whole lot of sense in the order that Vogue put them in. Instruction for me starts with the darts on the back piece. Matching the circle markings, I'll fold these over and sew down the side of the dart only about an inch to keep the pleats set. And then I'll attach the yoke to the top edge of the back piece with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. After that, I will attach the shoulders to the back. And with that put together, I do have a yoke facing that I need to insert. The instructions have me simply fold the seam allowance on the yoke, press it to match the inside of the garment, and then just sew it down. Next is the side seams down to the marks. I keep checking the underside because I had a fight with my machine soon after this, a whole tension issue. We were fighting a lot on this project. But once that was resolved and I had a snack, I was able to move on. Off camera I did a quick fit test, and I'm pretty happy with how it fits. Now I need to press the facing sides that won't be directly attached to the shirt, and then I'll sew that down. I will then attach the facing to the front at the center lines with the wrong sides facing out. Next up, I need to press the collar real quick with the right sides facing out, and then flip it inside out to sew the sides down to the marks. I'll then flip it right side out again and press it flat. Now I can pin the collar to the neck of the shirt following the marks, and once I'm happy with that, I'll sew it down and then clip the seam allowance to allow this to open up when I wear it later. With the collar attached, I can flip the lapels right side out and finally press that edge. I've got some hand sewing to do, so I'm gonna do that now. I'll be sewing down the facing and the inside of the collar by hand to try and not have these seams show on the other side. I'll do this on the front facing by only grabbing a couple threads at a time from the checkered fabric and sewing this very loosely with almost no tension at all. Once that is done, I can work on finishing the side seams next. The instructions want me to do a rolled hem to finish the side seams and the bottom edge along the front and the back, and that sounds good enough for me. So I'm going to roll it in on the inside, press it and pin it, and then sew it down. Now to work on the sleeves. I'll start those by sewing the side seams with the wrong sides facing out. I'll also do the side seams on the cuffs. I'll go ahead and finish the inside seams of the sleeves the same way I did with the rest of the shirt by rolling the seam allowance. This was kinda tight, but I made it work, and I was constantly checking that I was only sewing what I wanted to be. With that done, I can attach the cuffs to the bottom of the sleeve with the wrong side still facing out. Then I'll fold the cuff in, folding in the seam allowance as well, and sew that down by hand with a whip stitch, making sure it doesn't show on the other side. I guess my camera died and didn't get the gathering stitch I did on the shoulders of the sleeves, but I did a gathering stitch to make attaching them easier, which I will do now. I'll shove the sleeve into the arm's eye from the outside of the garment, with the sleeve also being right side out. Then, using the gathering stitch, I'm going to ease the sleeve into that arm's eye, pin it, and then sew it down. I'll finish that seam with some bias tape because I'm lazy and I don't want to do a rolled hem here, and I'm not even sure how that would work. Alright, I can't put them off any longer, so it's time to do these complicated buttonholes. So the instructions basically tell me to make double folded strips a bit longer than the button I'll be using, so I cut a few of those and pressed and folded them according to the instructions. Then I'll line them up and sew a box around where the hole will be. This is where I made the first fatal mistake. The instructions were not clear on which side I should do this, and honestly I shouldn't have been sewing while I was so tired, but I put these little strips on the wrong side of the lapel. I was supposed to sew them on the outside, not the inside like I did here, but I cut one anyway, and I hated it. Even with it being on the wrong side, I shoved it through and just tried to figure out how it would look. I think I made another mistake on how big the rectangle should have been around the hole. Something didn't line up right and it just didn't look good anyway. So for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to take these out and then do some hand-sewn buttonholes and call it good enough. Once I have the holes and the buttons attached, this blouse is finally done. This was supposed to be a one-day make, turned into a 4-day make, but it is so worth it. I am beyond happy. I am over the moon with how this shirt turned out. I wanted something with a very clear vintage vibe and something a little bit not solid black like the rest of my wardrobe, but that would still fit in with the black and white color scheme, and I think I nailed it exactly. I am beyond happy with this. I was definitely humbled on the buttonholes. That was a new way of doing buttonholes for me, and I didn't really get it the first time. It might have been an issue with the size of the buttons. I did try it even though I got it wrong the first time. I just had it on the wrong side. I did try it and see if I could, you know, make it work and just have to redo it at that point, but during the testing of that, didn't look right. I didn't like how it looked. It wasn't super clean. I think I want to experiment with that buttonhole type a little bit more and maybe try it on a different garment. But for now, I'm happy with how the buttonholes came out. These being hand done doesn't really feel like it takes away from the overall vibe of the shirt. I mean, it actually kind of adds to the vintage feel for me. So overall, I'm so happy, and I think I nailed it on exactly what I wanted with, which is a light shirt, something that'll easily go with all of my other clothes. That's not solid black and can kind of stand out in contrast. And I think I filled that niche for my wardrobe very well with this wonderful little blouse from 1958. I think this turned out so fantastic. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!